Thank you. Thank you all for your work. It's vitally important. We very much appreciate the work and would encourage you to stay on it, continue to bring ideas and issues. The Inspectors General deals with waste, deals with fraud, makes recommendations, brings up ideas of greater efficiency. So Inspectors General that are actually leaning in to an agency, developing those relationships and proposing ideas helps us all. And helps the nation. There is an expectation of that work. And let me just be one of many to be able to say to you, lean in. We need you working well in that task on it. I've got a whole litany of issues and questions that I want to be able to walk through and try to be able to address. We've talked through several things, but I would tell you what I hear most from people at home when they talk about Inspectors General and different issues they see in government is, why does it seem like no one's held to account? Now, we all know that's not correct. There are some people held to account, but it becomes a very big deal when we see someone like Andrew Mccabe, who you've already mentioned earlier, who you found, researched, walked through all the interviews, and found that he clearly lied, was fired by the Department of Justice, and then now has been added back in. His pension's now recovered. Back pay is being paid back to him. There's a real sense of, hey, there was an Inspector General report that came out saying this person lied, and there seems to be no consequence on it. So what we can do to be able to bring you testimonial subpoena authority and to be able to get at some of these things and to get recommendations is of great benefit to just restoring trust into government in the process. So I'm going to drill down on a couple of these. Mr. Horowitz, you've been through investigations before that cross jurisdiction. You walked through the issue of Glenn Simpson and Jonathan Winter. It's a State Department issue where you're over on Department of Justice, their State Department, then they retire and make this even harder. So can we talk through when you get into an investigation that may include people from multiple quote-unquote jurisdictions from other agencies, and then when they retire, how hard that is to be able to get the testimonial evidence?
It's very hard, and the normal process would be if the employee was still at the State Department, for example, I'd reach out to the state IG, and they would facilitate my being able to speak to that person, much as I do actually on occasions when people call me. But once the employee's gone, the employee's gone. And I have no authority over them. State Department employee doesn't. The only one would is the Defense Department IG. And I obviously don't cross over into that realm much.
So subpoena power to be able to require testimonies is essential for just the ongoing work, because there are numerous examples of individuals who were under investigation for the Inspector General. They just retired and said, I'm out. And then it becomes the issue of they retire with benefits. Everyone knows that there was activity there was fraud, there was abuse. That was something whistleblowers have called out, but they just retire and leave. They leave with full benefits.
And how do you explain to the complainant who's come in and said I was sexually assaulted, or I was retaliated against as a whistleblower, or I just reported money was stolen and you're doing nothing about it?
Right.
The answer is, well, you know, we need to get the evidence.
So we need to get that to you, clearly. There needs to be a balanced perspective on how that's handled. It was handled judiciously by the Department of Justice over the decade that they've had it. I believe that can work, but we've got to be able to find a way to be able to hold people to account in the process. Mr. Horowitz, again, for you, you did a very thorough examination on the Woods procedures in the FISA. FISA has been an area that you've been excluded from, obviously be able to take a look at when you're having the opportunity to be able to do it. You're just looking to see whether the standards that have been set for a FISA application process were followed. That's a pretty straightforward issue. Best that I had when I pulled through this, you sampled 29 FISA applications and you found 400 instances of noncompliance with the Woods procedures. Then it got worse. You went through 7,000 FISA applications that have been authorized in the last 5 years. There were 179, which the Woods file, as was listed from your document, was missing, destroyed, or incomplete. I want to drill down on a couple of those things. Missing and incomplete is one thing. Destroyed is something totally different. That is a volitional act. Do you have evidence that some of these Woods procedures were destroyed?
We have evidence that some of the files were destroyed. The problem was the FBI, even though they put in place this requirement of creating a Woods file, didn't give any guidance on what you should do with it afterwards. We had a situation where our investigators, lawyers went in and found a stack of documents in a corner, and that was we were told was what comprised the Woods file. So you can't have a effective procedure to try and make sure FISA is scrupulously accurate through a Woods procedure and then not ensure the Woods procedures are being followed.
Right. You made 10 recommendations to the FBI. 5 of them they've responded to. 5 of them, best of our understanding, they have not. Do you have an update from them that they're following through on those recommendations?
They have told us they are following through on them, and through our regular process in 60 days to 90 days, they will owe us a report. and we will continue to update that. We've been doing this, by the way, in some of our other national security reports with the FBI for years and years because we continue to follow up. That's what it means to have independent oversight. We close them, not the agency.
Right. Mr. Winters, I want to be able to drill down on something here. The allegations that come to anyone, to the Inspector General, from a whistleblower, whoever it may be, sometimes they're factual, sometimes they are not. Sometimes it is harassment from an employee that has found an effective way to be able to harass individuals and to keep them tied up into investigations. So the Inspector General has a process for determining whether an allegation has merit at the beginning. I call it like a little mini grand jury. You can call it what you want to at that point, but you've got to be able to make a decision to have merit. Can you walk me through that process? Because sometimes this is a legitimate investigation, sometimes it's harassment. How do you evaluate this, and what do you pass on to other Inspector Generals?
Senator. And every Inspector General faces that, and also the Integrity Committee as well, in terms of
Correct.
The weaponization of complaints. And but we have a process for it, and particularly in the pandemic, we have a lot of complaints coming in. So there's a sifting, and when we look at basically, is this a valid complaint that alleges some form of wrongdoing that's actionable? And from the Integrity Committee's perspective, whether or not there's a person that's covered, that's basically a senior level person. For a typical complaint that comes in from, say, for example, to NASA when I was there, or Amtrak, we have a specific section that does that has a sifting process that, assesses the facts versus the criteria of whether something's actionable or not.
So we obviously want to be able to get you, and we've been very outspoken on this, the testimonial subpoena power, to be able to make sure someone can't just retire and then just avoid any kind of pursuit on this. We've talked a lot about trying to get to who is the chain of succession if we need to get to an acting Inspector General. We've spoken frequently about how to be able to get more Inspectors General. This has been an issue of multiple presidents, that they just don't appoint an Inspector General, so they leave it open for a long time, and it becomes an issue. This seems to be a gap that I just don't know enough about, and I'd be willing to be able to talk about, because I never want the Inspectors General office to be used as a weapon against somebody unjustly, because especially if someone's in their personal capacity and is having to hire their own personal attorney in this process, and someone who's just mad at them for a decision that they made chooses to be able to weaponize the process, that becomes highly destructive to them personally and discourages people from actually stepping into government when they know there is a federal employee that can weaponize this process and just drive them out.
I absolutely agree with that. As an Inspector General, and I can just talk for me personally, we take an oath. I took my first oath in August 1972 to support and defend the Constitution. And what that means is adherence to the rule of law, not some partisan narrative. So we're very sensitive to those type of complaints and endeavor, of course, to follow the law and the facts in terms of those particular complaints.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Chứa chan tình thương, ngày mai xa cách hai đứa hai nơi, phút gần gũi nhau mất rồi, tạ từ là hết người ơi. Tiếng ve nức nở buồn hơn tiếng lòng, biết ai còn nhớ đến ân tình không? Đường xưa in bóng hai đứa nay đâu, những chiều hẹn nhau lúc đầu giờ như nước trôi qua cầu. Giá biết bạn lòng ơi, thôi nay xa cách rồi, kỷ niệm xin nhớ thông được nỗi vắng xa người thương. Màu hoa phượng thắm như máu con tim, mỗi lần hè sang kỷ niệm người xưa biết đâu mà tìm. Giá biết bạn lòng ơi, thôi nay xa cách rồi, kỷ niệm xin nhớ mãi. Buồn riêng một mình ai, chờ mong từng đêm gối chiếc, mối u hoài này anh có nhặt hoa thấy buồn, cảm thông được nỗi vắng xa người thương. Màu hoa phượng thắm như máu con tim, mỗi lần hè sang kỷ niệm người xưa biết đâu mà tìm. Màu hoa phượng thắm mỗi lần hè sang kỷ niệm người xưa biết đâu